cabinet and the Commission started to work with the White House and with the Treasury already in December on potential sanctions in case that Russia would invade Ukraine. Indeed, we all hoped that it would never happen and we would never have to use these sanctions, but it was a tedious work day and night to align our very different trade systems, to develop sanctions that are targeted at advanced technologies and goods that are irreplaceable.
This is my first video updates from Athens, Greece on this Sunday morning. Let's talk about some news. The Indian Palace since 2000. Let's start things off with India and what George Soros said on Thursday, a day before the Munich Security Conference kicked off. George Soros actually called for regime change in India. He said that he hopes India undergoes a democratic revival, and he cited some sort of an investigation into this multinational business conglomerate headed up by Adani, I believe is the businessman's name, who has connections to Modi, allegedly has some sort of connections to Modi, and Soros was hoping that this investigation slash, I guess, scandal or whatever's going on with this business conglomerate would lead to the downfall of the Modi government.
India is an interesting case. It's a democracy, but its leader, Narendra Modi, is no Democrat. Modi and business tycoon Adani are close allies. Their fate is intertwined. Adani Enterprises tried to raise funds in the stock market but failed. Adani is accused of stock manipulation and his stock collapsed like a house of cards. This will significantly weaken Modi's stranglehold on India's federal government and open the door to push for much-needed institutional reforms.
And India's foreign minister, Jaishankar, he replied to George Soros's call for regime change in India, and what a reply it was from Jaishankar.
I could take a view that the individual in question, Mr. Soros, is a old, rich, opinionated person sitting in New York who still thinks that his views should determine how the entire world works. Now, if I could only stop at old, rich and opinionated, I would put it away. But he is old, rich, opinionated and dangerous.
So that was the Indian foreign minister replying to George Soros's call for regime change. Why does George Soros, who's like 92 years old, why does he keep running his mouth about regime change in countries? You would think that at 92 and worth however many billions he's worth, 50, 60 billion, he would just be enjoying his life. But instead he runs around and talks about regime change in various countries, this time in India. I actually did a little bit of digging, just a little bit of digging, and found out that George Soros has some sort of business stakes, has some sort of investment in India, which would benefit him if the Modi government were to collapse. So even at 92, all the guy can think about is making a couple of more bucks, even though he's worth like 60 billion. What a freaking demon that guy is, I'm telling you. But you know, Jaishankar, that guy is just the best, along with Lavrov and Peter Szijjártó in Hungary. those are the best foreign ministers in the world. I mean, those three are like at the top of their game. Russia, India, and Hungary when it comes to diplomacy and their foreign ministers. So Jaishankar, he unloaded on Soros, and boy did he crush George Soros. I'm like stuck right here, mesmerized by this tree, this area right here, which is such a strange spot. It's in the center of Athens, at like a major intersection, and here you have this beautiful little area right here. Anyway, let's cross over, and we'll talk about the Munich Security Conference and what a circus the conference turned into on Saturday. Boy, did we get some crazy statements and admissions as well during the second day of the conference. And let's start things off with what Ursula von der Crazy said during her panel discussion in Munich. So Ursula von der Crazy, she basically admitted that, or she revealed, maybe that's a better term, she revealed that the European Union, in coordination with the Biden White House, that they were plotting out sanctions against Russia way back in December of 2021, a good 2 to 3 months before the special military operation. And Ursula said that they were working very hard. It was very difficult to plan out these sanctions and coordinate with the Biden White House. She said it was, I think the word she used was tedious. It was like a tedious task, or a tedious couple of days as they were getting these sanctions together. And this was all part of, according to Ursula, all part of a type of preventative policy, a preventative undertaking, just in case Russia were to invade Ukraine. They wanted to be ready with this shock and awe sanctions package. Quite a revelation from von der Crazy. And if you take what von der Crazy says, if you take her admission from Munich, which is that the EU and the US, they had sanctions in place a good 3 months ahead of the special military operation. And then you take the fact that according to Seymour Hersh, the Biden White House in November and December of 2021, that the Biden White House was already plotting the destruction of Nord Stream. That also occurred a good 3 months before the special military operation. And then you take like all the revelations of Merkel and Hollande, Poroshenko, Zelensky, where they said that they weren't going to enforce the Minsk agreements, and Minsk was just a way for the collective West to buy time so they could build up the Ukraine military for an eventual conflict with Russia. If you take all of these factors into consideration, then you really do have a strong case for this war being provoked. I mean, these revelations really play into the hands of the Kremlin, so that they can make the case that, contrary to what the collective West continually says, which is that this conflict was unprovoked, you look at all of these statements and admissions from collective West leadership and the Sy Hersh investigative report, and you can see how this conflict was absolutely provoked. Russia was being goaded into a conflict in Ukraine, and the collective West, it seems, was preparing for for this conflict in Ukraine. They were preparing sanctions a good 2-3 months ahead of time. They were plotting and scheming a way to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. They've admitted to the fact that the Minsk agreement was just a way to build up the Ukraine military. All of these things point to the exact opposite of an unprovoked conflict. So a very interesting revelation from Ursula. They were planning the shock and awe sanctions a good 3 months ahead of the special military operation. And of course, the plan was something along the lines of goad Russia into conflict in Ukraine, put together these economic sanctions, unleash these economic shock and awe sanctions, the downfall, which would lead to the downfall of the Russian economy and the downfall of the Putin government, the regime change that they've always wanted. That was pretty much the what I believe was the thinking that was taking place in Washington and in Brussels. And we now know that they were coordinating with each other, Brussels and DC, to get those shock and awe sanctions in place in anticipation for the Russian invasion. They knew that they were going to be successful in provoking Russia. I believe that they knew that they were going to succeed in provoking Russia into the conflict in Ukraine, and they were ready. They had those sanctions ready to go. And that is pretty much what Ursula is admitting to. And then she stood up and addressed the audience and said that the Russian economy is in tatters, I tell you. She didn't say that. That's a joke. The other stuff she did say, the Russian economy in tatters at Munich, she did not say that. But, you know, it would have been fun if she did. But that is the statement from Ursula von der Crazy at Munich. And then we got the big clown world statement from... Signal me in a taxi? Oh. Okay. Then we have the big statement from Annalena Baerbock, and wow, what a statement she made during her panel appearance. She was joined by Blinken and by who else was there? Kaluba, the foreign minister of Ukraine. And Kaluba actually said that something along the lines of Putin has to go, or the world won't be safe until Putin is taken out, leaves the scene, something like that. I forgot what he said.
As long as Putin is in power, we will be in troubles, because Ukraine is his personal obsession.
But the same old tired, Putin must go, regime change stuff. And whenever they say Putin must go, to me that just accelerates their own downfall. Whenever they say Putin must go, it means that Kaluba has just sped up his departure from the political scene. But we had the statement from Blinken as well. Blinken said that he's absolutely 100% sure that Russia will be defeated. That's what Blinken said. So just reverse that. Whenever a collective West leader says something along the lines of Russia is going to be defeated, I'm 100% sure, it means that they're about to lose. Why they make these statements, I don't know. I mean, haven't they learned through all the years that whenever they say stuff like Assad must go or Putin must go, haven't they learned the power of the Zelensky curse? Haven't they learned over the years that all the leaders over history that have said Russia's going to be defeated, the Russian military is going to lose, we're going to take over Russia. Haven't they learned that it always ends up the exact opposite? I don't understand why they make these statements. You would think that they've studied some history in school or in university, but they haven't. I guess it's just hubris and arrogance. Anyway, let's get to Baerbock and to her clown world of the year statement. So Baerbock was asked about Putin, and she said that, and I want to make sure I get this right. Let me pull this up, because I still can't believe that Baerbock said this. She was asked if there is any chance of Ukraine being safe in the long term. That was the question on this Munich panel that was directed towards Annalena Baerbock, the foreign minister of Germany. I said that Jaishankar, Peter Sijarto, and Sergei Lavrov are like the three best foreign ministers in the world. Well, Annalena Baerbock is without a doubt the worst foreign minister I think we have seen in a long, long time. I mean, her and Blinken are just, wow, those two. But Annalena Baerbock, she is as bad as it gets. But she was asked, one sec, as the runners go by here. All right. A lot of distractions today as I'm walking. Let me actually cross over to the side here. So Annalena was asked, any chance of Ukraine being safe in the long term? Oh man, and Annalena says, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep my composure here as I read what Annalena's response was to this question. Annalena said, if he doesn't change by 360 degrees, no.
Sure, you have been asked before, but I would still like to hear your answer. Is there any chance of Ukraine being safe in the long term if Vladimir Putin is still leading Russia?
If he doesn't change by 360 degrees? No.
But everything that happened over the last year, and it's truly remarkable what's happened over the last year.
If he doesn't change by 360 degrees? No.
But everything that happened over the last year, and it's truly remarkable.
Any chance of Ukraine being safe in the long term? Miss Foreign Minister of Germany? Foreign Minister of Germany. Her reply was, if he doesn't change by 360 degrees, no. There is no chance of Ukraine being safe in the long term unless Putin changes by 360 degrees. Let's see here. 360 degrees, Annalena. 90 degrees. This is 180. 360. She's the foreign minister of Germany. Oh, man. Oh, man. Watch that. Come Monday, Tuesday, the German media is going to run stories, something along the lines of Kremlin propagandists, Putin propagandists twist Annalena's words at the Munich Security Conference. Watch. That's going to be the headline on Der Spiegel or Bild on Monday or Tuesday. Put money on it. They are going to run articles like Annalena's comments taken out of context by Kremlin propaganda machine. Oh boy. I can't believe that these people are running the world, are running the West, at least. I can't believe they've reached the top of German government, of German politics. This comment is even, I mean, this comment tops her we're fighting a war against Russia comment that she made a couple of weeks ago. We're at war against Russia. That was a bonehead comment, but this comment, my God. She's obviously not very good at math, is she? Obviously. But don't worry, this is all taken out of context by the Kremlin propagandists. Taking her statements way out of context. I'm sure that's going to be the line that we're going to hear from the mainstream media in Germany. So, what else should we discuss here? Seymour Hersh gave an interview to Consortium News, and this is what he said in connection to the war in Ukraine and to the Nord Stream sabotage. He said, "It was suicidal to think you can win that war, that Ukraine can win the war against Russia. There's just too much corruption. That was a very, very bad decision. We should have been pushing for peace. We should have made an agreement." That is what Seymour Hersh said. The video with Hersh and his interview to Consortium News is on, I believe it's on Rumble. You can also find it on YouTube. He also gave an interview to Russell Brand, which is a huge interview because Russell Brand's channel, just on YouTube alone, I think is something like 6.2, 6.3 million subscribers. So he has a huge reach. And the fact that Seymour Hersh was featured on Russell Brand's YouTube channel, as well as his Rumble channel. He has a huge Rumble channel as well. Means that that his story is getting out there. You know, Russell Brand is going to be a huge deal to get the Seymour Hersh investigative report on the Nord Stream sabotage to millions of people. So definitely check those interviews out. But Seymour Hersh, he understood that this war was a very bad idea, and he absolutely understands that Ukraine cannot win this conflict against Russia. But let's go back to Annalina's statement, her 360-degree statement, and let me read you what, I just pulled it up, what Medvedev said in response to Annalina's statement. Dmitry Medvedev said, "It's hilarious that Europe is run by such ignorant people. There is no doubt, connoisseur of geometry, that it will be so. We are holding our ground." That is what Medvedev said in response to Annalena Baerbock's comment at the Munich Security Conference. Let's walk this way. And so there's some talk that Zelensky was actually asking European leaders in Munich for cluster munition and phosphorus bombs. I can't confirm this, but I have seen quite a lot of Telegram channels and news sources on both sides saying that Zelensky, out of desperation, was asking for these types of weapons from EU leaders, and allegedly many of the leaders in Europe were kind of horrified by this request from Zelensky. I don't know if this is true, but there is quite a lot of talk about this request made at Munich from Zelensky. But one of the reasons that Zelensky did not show up to Munich, that Nuland did not give Zelensky the order to travel to Munich in person, and he just gave a video statement, I believe one of the reasons is because his in-person tour of Europe turned out to be a complete failure. He didn't get the tanks and fighter jets and the long-range missiles that he was hoping for. And so I think that Nuland told Zelensky, just stay put, give a video address. EU leaders are tapped out, or they're reluctant to send this type of equipment to Ukraine, or they just simply can't do it. And so there's no reason for you to go there in person. And that's why, I believe that is why Zelensky's speech was not so much focused on getting weapons from Europe, but was focused on Israel. The whole narrative of the script was targeted at Israel, to try and get Israel to give over their weapons, ammo, Iron Dome, air defense, and stuff like that. That would explain why his speech was targeted towards Israel and not so much towards Europe. So that would explain why Zelensky didn't go to Munich in person, because his in-person tour around Europe was not a success. And this is actually causing quite a lot of panic in Kiev. There are a lot of reports from Ukraine Telegram channels that in Kiev at this moment, there's kind of a lot of panic and anger at the fact that Zelensky failed to deliver the 400 tanks and the fighter jets and stuff like that. But Rishi Sunak, he said at Munich that EU nations should double down on their weapons deliveries to Ukraine. That's what Sunak said, and then Sunak and Kamala Harris, they had a meeting and said that this war is a global war. That's one of their statements, that this is a global war. And Sunak also announced that the UK would be the first country to deliver long-range missiles to Ukraine. So that was the British unelected Prime Minister speaking at Munich and having meetings with Kamala Harris. And I don't buy into any of the statements from Sunak, because when Zelensky was in the UK and allegedly he was going to get all these fighter jets and 100 Typhoon fighter jets and stuff like that to Ukraine, and all of this talk, at the end of the day, nothing happened. No fighter jets were delivered to Ukraine. The only thing he got were Challenger 2 tanks, and that was it. So I think that Sunak's position, his role in all of this is to kind of be the guy that tries to get the ball rolling for EU member states to give up their weapons to Ukraine. That's kind of his role in all of this. So he'll come out and make a statement like, the UK is going to give over 100 Typhoon fighter jets in anticipation that EU member states will then come out and say, oh, well, if Sunak is going to give over fighter jets, then we'll give over all our F-16s. And that didn't work out. And so now he's coming out and saying, we'll be the first to give long-range missiles. And he's hoping that EU member states will then come out and say, well, if Sunak is going to give over long-range missiles, well then, we'll give over all our long-range missiles as well to Zelensky. And it's not going to work. That's kind of what Sunak's role is. And if he does give long-range missiles, from what I hear, the UK have missiles that have a range of something like 250 kilometers. If he does that, then so be it. Russia's going to take note. They can counter anything that the UK military provides to Ukraine. The Russians can counter and better it, and they're just going to take note of the UK escalation in Ukraine, and they'll have an answer for it. But I just don't think that Sunak is about giving weapons to Ukraine. I think his main goal is to try and con the Europeans, the EU leadership, to give up their weapons by him being the one that takes the lead. He feels that the EU member states are going to follow the UK's lead on the escalation in Ukraine, and maybe that's the case, but it does seem like the EU has kind of. So let me go this way. It does seem like the EU has kind of hit the end of the road when it comes to weapons. Maybe they have a little more to give, but not much more. Not much more at all. They're trying to put together a scheme, and I'll wrap it up with this story and a quick clown world. The EU is trying to put together a scheme like what they put together during the coup, where they collectively pool their resources and their money together into one pot, and then they buy ammo for Ukraine. That's the scheme that they're trying to put together. This is according to Reuters. They're saying that EU foreign ministers are discussing the idea of joint purchase of 155 artillery shells. So this was a clever scheme that they've put together during the coup, which made a lot of EU officials very, very wealthy. This pooling of money into a giant pot, and then using that money to purchase certain things during the pandemic, and it looks like they're going to pull the same type of scheme. And this is not so much about helping Ukraine, but this is just a money grab. This is just a money grab, and the one official who made a whole lot of money but somehow lost the contracts and the text messages was Ursula. So they're just falling back on the same little schemes that they put together during the coup, and now they're just copy and pasting those schemes for Ukraine. Let's put all our money into a pot, and we'll take all that money that we all pull together and we'll buy ammo for Ukraine. No corruption is going to take place with that type of mechanism. No corruption at all. Incredible. That's a bad sign for Ukraine. These types of schemes are a bad sign for Ukraine. It means that this is not about helping the Zelensky regime, but this is about making money for the EU kleptocrats. Anyway, let's do a quick clown world and we'll finish up this video. And my clown world, of course, could have been Annalena, enter 360, but let's give another clown world here. And this is from Max Blumenthal. An F-22, which costs $85,000 an hour to fly, used a $450,000 missile to take down a $12 hobby balloon belonging to the Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade. Also Biden could prove his manhood to Marjorie Taylor Greene. And there's a headline here which says, Hobby Club's missing balloon feared shot down by U.S. Air Force. Hobby Club's missing balloon. Oh, man. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rockfin as well. And go to the Duran shop. 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.